My Lords, Honorable Chief Justice Hima Kohli, my Lords, Honorable Judges of this Honorable Court, Honorable former Judges of this Honorable Court, Additional Solicitor General of India, Chairman Bar Council of Telangana, Additional Advocate General, the Public Prosecutor, the Assistant Solicitor General of India, the President High Court Advocates Association, the Law Secretary, the Director Judicial Academy, the Member Secretary Telangana State Legal Services Authority, the Secretary Legal Services Committee, Member Bar Council of India, the law officers and other officers, senior advocates, members of the bar, family members of the Honorable Chief Justice Hima Kohli, ladies and gentlemen. On the 15th of August 2021, I on behalf of the bar made a solemn wish and hope that my Lord's Honorable Chief Justice Hima Kohli reach the apex court shortly. 2 days later, on 17th of August 2021, the newspapers reported that my Lord's name has been recommended to the Supreme Court for the appointment as Judge of the Honorable Supreme Court. On the day, I on behalf of the bar wished to my Lords, but as a humble as ever, my Lords remarked that she would accept the wishes only after formal appointment orders are issued. Today, we request my Lords to accept the wishes of the entire legal fraternity. We are proud that my Lord's name shall remain associated with the Telangana High Court for posterity, since my Lords shall be known as the first woman judge who has been elevated to the Honorable Supreme Court from Telangana High Court. My Lord's parents, Sri Surendranath Kohli and Srimati Mohinder Kohli, hailed from pre-partition India. My Lord's father, Sri Surendranath Kohli, belonged to a business family, while my Lord's mother, Srimati Mohinder Kohli's family was into academics. They were blessed with 2 daughters, the eldest being Miss Neelu Kohli and the youngest being my Lord's Justice Hima Kohli. My Lord's was born on 2nd September 1959 in Delhi. My Lord's did her schooling from St. Thomas School, New Delhi, and graduated in History Honours from St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi. My Lords completed post-graduation in History in First Division and thereafter joined the LLB course at the Faculty Law, Campus Law Center, University of Delhi. Thereafter, in 1984, my Lords got enrolled as an advocate and joined the chambers of Srimati Sunanda Bhandare and Sri Mulli Bhandare. Upon the elevation of Srimati Sunanda Bhandare to the bench of the Delhi High Court, my Lords joined the chambers of Justice Y.K. Sabarwal, who later went on to become the Chief Justice of India. Upon Justice Sabarwal's elevation to the Delhi High Court, my Lord joined the chambers of Sri Vijayendra Jain, who also was elevated as Judge to the Delhi High Court. My Lords held different prestigious positions prior to elevation as Judge. My Lord was the legal advisor and standing counsel of the New Delhi Municipal Council in the High Court of Delhi from 1999 to 2004. My Lords worked as the Additional Standing Counsel, Civil, Government of National Capital Territory of Delhi, in the Delhi High Court. My Lords represented Government of Delhi in several important public interest litigations and was the legal advisor to the Public Grievance Commission, Delhi Pollution Control Committee, National Agricultural Cooperative Marketing Federation of India, National Cooperative Development Corporation and other private organizations, banks, etc. My Lords was also associated with the Delhi High Court Legal Services Committee. Having gained immense experience, my Lords started independent practice shortly after the elevation of Sri Vijayendra Jain to the bench of the Delhi High Court, and on 29th May 2006, my Lords was appointed as Additional Judge of High Court of Delhi, and on 29th August 2007, my Lords were appointed as Permanent Judge of the Delhi High Court. Even after elevation as a Judge of Delhi High Court, my Lords was associated with numerous institutions in their capacity as a judge. My Lords was a member of the General Council of the West Bengal National University of Judicial Sciences, Kolkata, and as a member of the editorial committee of Nyayadi, the official journal published by National Legal Services Authority. My Lords was also the chairperson of the Committee of Delhi Judicial Academy and the chairperson of a high-powered committee constituted by the Delhi government. in terms of the order passed by the Supreme Court of India for decongestion of jails in all states and UTs in view of the COVID-19 pandemic. My Lords was also the Executive Chairperson of the Delhi State Legal Services Authority and the Chairperson of the Delhi High Court Middle Income Group Legal Aid Society. My Lords was a member of the Governing Council of the National Law University. My Lords, after serving as the Judge of the High Court of Delhi for 15 years, was appointed as the Chief Justice of the High Court of Telangana on 7th January 2021, becoming the first woman judge to hold such position in the Telangana High Court. My Lords had assumed charge as the Chief Justice of this Honorable Court during challenging times when the court was functioning virtually on account of the pandemic. Since my Lords was part of the bench dealing with COVID in the Delhi High Court, my Lords was very good to deal with the COVID issues in the state of Telangana. As the second wave of the pandemic gripped the country, my Lords, through judicial intervention, guided the state machinery to tackle the situation. Through the pandemic, my Lords led the way and ensured that the doors of justice remained open for the public. My Lords also saw to it that every employee of the judiciary was vaccinated and had taken exemplary steps in that regard. My Lords ensured that the advocates and the staff were safe and provided the much needed assurance during the troubled times. My Lords took all steps in relation to the designation of the senior advocates, which was long pending, undertook the recruitment to the district judges and the junior civil judges, and completed the same successfully. As the situation eased out, my Lords, keeping in view of the plight of the advocates and the representations of the bar, shifted the hearing to a hybrid mode of part virtual and part physical hearings. Today, we are glad that this farewell function is conducted physically and the first court hall is filled to its capacity after a period of almost 1.5 years. During my Lord's tenure as the Chief Justice of this court, my Lords conducted the court proceedings in the most meticulous and organized manner. The discipline my Lords has inculcated in the members of the bar during the court proceedings will stand out as an extraordinary example. My Lords, while holding the court, is very strict and ensured that everybody is heard and justice is delivered irrespective of whether the matter is argued by a seasoned senior advocate or a raw junior. Upon my Lord's initiative, the senior advocates of this court contributed amounts for creating a COVID fund for disbursal to the needy advocates who have been affected by COVID. My Lords also ensured that the costs imposed in various matters are deposited into COVID fund created for the purpose. The hallmark of a good judge is reflected in the way the docket of the particular court is managed. On this count, my Lords have created a unique method of managing the docket by identifying the cases year-wise and posting them in a separate urgent list. Under my Lord's directions, the registry was able to segregate and organize the cases and list them in the urgent list so that the advocates could be well prepared when the matters are actually taken up for hearing on a later date. But for my Lord's initiative, such humongous tasks would not have been achieved. During her tenure as the Chief Justice of this Honorable Court, my Lords disposed of numerous cases and among them many family court appeals. My Lords would go the extra mile in making the parties to the family dispute see reason and settle the disputes, thereby putting a quietness to the bitter battles and to start their lives afresh. My Lords ensured that the children out of wedlock are assured of sufficient support financially. Though my Lord is very strict on the bench, as a human being she has a very soft heart, and the same has been apparent in her efforts, be it COVID relief to the employees, the advocates' vaccination drives, and her efforts for establishing a crèche in the premises of the Honorable High Court, apart from laying the foundation for separate chambers for the senior advocates. My Lord's experience as a lawyer appearing for institutions and as a private lawyer has equipped my Lords with the necessary arsenal to remove the chaff from the grain. The balance that my Lord strikes in her orders is reflective of her legal acumen and is of highest caliber. My Lords has also taken active steps for appointment of judges to this Honorable Court, and we are thankful for all the effort my Lords has made in that regard. During her tenure as a judge of the High Court, my lords has rendered numerous judgments, and I would quote a few which reflect my lord's concern to the society and the brilliant legal acumen. As a judge of the Delhi High Court, my lords, in Manisha Priyadarshini versus Aurobindo College, LPA 595 of 2019, decided on 1st of May 2020. My lords presiding the bench, while considering the case of an ad hoc assistant professor seeking maternity leave, held that action of the respondents for declining to grant an extension to the appellant, as she had highlighted her need to leave due to her pregnancy, and confinement would tantamount to penalizing a woman for electing to become a mother while still employed, and thus pushing her into a choiceless situation, as motherhood would be equated with loss of employment. The Honorable Court held that this is violative of the basic principle of equality in the eyes of law, and that it would be tantamount to depriving her the protection assured under Article 21 of the Constitution of India of her right to employment and protection of her reproductive rights as a woman. In Rajat Gupta versus Rupali Gupta, 2018 SCC Online, Delhi 9005, my lords, speaking for the bench, held that distinguishing feature of Section 13B of the Hindu Marriage Act 1955 is that it recognizes the qualified and unfettered right of a party to unilaterally withdraw the consent or reconsider from a decision to apply for divorce by mutual consent, notwithstanding any undertaking given in any legal proceeding or recorded in any statement, joint statement, in or outside the court, resulting in a consent order, decree to cooperate with other spouse to file a petition under Section 13B1 or a second motion under Section 13B2 of the Act or Board. Withdrawal of consent even at the stage of inquiry as contemplated under Section 13B2 is also in exercise of the right available to the party under the very same provision. In other words, the mutuality of the consent to divorce should commence from the stage of filing the first motion under Section 13B1, and it should continue at the time of moving the second motion under Section 13B2 of the Act, till such time the court complete the inquiry and a decree of divorce is finally passed. The said element of mutual consent is a sine qua non for passing a decree of divorce. This being the legal position, the defaulting party cannot be compelled to file or appear in the petition or motion or both to obtain divorce by mutual consent. In Mukesh Yadav versus Union of India and others, 2017 SCC Online, Delhi 12581, my lords, speaking for the bench, in a case where the petitioner was aggrieved by the action of the Railway Board, declaring him unfit for government service and discharging him from the post of constable in the RPF with immediate effect, on the ground that the petitioner had deliberately omitted to furnish vital information with regard to a criminal case against him, which was pending trial at the time when he had filled up the attestation form after being selected to the post of clearing the written examination and interview, held that the criminal case against the petitioner was lodged when he was 12 years, and that once a juvenile has been extended a protective umbrella under the Juvenile Justice Care and Protection Act 2015, in terms of the object of the Act, to ensure that no stigma is attached to juvenile in conflict with law. There was no good reason for the respondents to have insisted that the petitioner ought to have disclosed the information relating to the allegations against him pertaining to an offence that was committed during his childhood, where he was tried by the Juvenile Justice Board and subsequently acquitted. And more recently, as the Honorable Chief Justice of the High Court of Telangana, my lords, in Telangana State Public Service Commission versus Potula Durga Bhavani and others, in writ appeal number 1369 of 2018 and batch, my lords, writing for the bench, reconciled the divergence of judicial opinions expressed by two division benches of the erstwhile Andhra Pradesh High Court. The issue for consideration in the matter was whether wrong bubbling double bubbling or no bubbling of the personal particulars such as hall ticket number, booklet serious number, paper code, and examination center number would be fatal to disentitled evaluation of the answer scripts of the candidates, or the same can be ignored and the answer scripts should be evaluated. My lords, drawing the strength from the Supreme Court decision in the state of Tamil Nadu and others versus G. Hemalata and another, civil appeal number 6669 of 2019, as well as judgment authored by my lords as part of a division bench of the Delhi High Court in the writ petition 8318 of 2017 and a batch, held that there must be a strict construction of the rules and that forbearance must be adopted by the High Courts in exercising extraordinary powers under Article 226 of the Constitution of India to modify and or relax the instructions issued by the examining authority, which would result in violating the instructions issued to the candidates participating in public examinations. In Gautami Junior College for Girls versus the State of Telangana and others reported in 2021 4 ALD 525. A batch of writ petitions were filed by the management of several junior colleges operating in different parts of Telangana, who were all aggrieved by the order of the Telangana State Disaster Response and Fire Services, bringing the colleges buildings within the meaning of school buildings under Fire Services Act, and thereby mandating that they obtain a fire clearance NOC from TSD RFS for running their colleges. My lords, writing for the bench and relying on Avinash Mehrotra versus Union of India, reported in 2009 6 SEC 398, observed that the right to education incorporates the provisions of safe schools. My lords held that the legislative intent behind enacting the Fire Service Act is to safeguard human lives, ensure fire prevention, and enforce fire safety measures to prevent any loss of life or property on account of fire. Keeping in mind the aforesaid statutory object, the contention that NOC is required only for building housing schools with students studying up to class 10, but those students who are studying in classes 11th and 12th, the intermediate colleges, junior colleges would stand excluded from the ambit of the Act, cannot be accepted, as doing so would be a mockery of the enactment. My lords held that although the word school has not been defined in the Fire Service Act, it must be held that the word school provided in the Act includes intermediate colleges in terms of the definition provided in the National Building Code 2016, and therefore has to be made applicable on a much broader footing, encompassing all building imparting education, irrespective of whether they are schools, colleges, other training institutions or coaching centers. We are glad and happy my lords has been appointed as judge to the apex court and would miss the presence of my lords in the first court. The short period of 8 months, my lords has proved to be a judge of the highest caliber, simple demeanor and strict discipline. My lords has created a special place in the hearts of every member of the legal fraternity of Telangana. All of us are thankful for every endeavor that my lords has made for the betterment of the people of Telangana, and we wish all success during my lord's tenure at the Honorable Supreme Court. Thank you.
My Lord the Chief Justice Hema Kohli, family members of the Chief Justice, sister and brother judges of the Telangana High Court, retired judges of the Delhi High Court, learned Advocate General and Additional Advocate General for the State of Telangana, Sri C. Pratap Reddy, learned Public Prosecutor for the State of Telangana, learned Government Leaders and Assistant Government Leaders, learned Additional Public Prosecutors and Assistant Public Prosecutors, A. Narasimha Reddy, Chairman Bar Council for the State of Telangana, Sri T. Suryakaran Reddy, President Bar Association of the High Court of the State of Telangana, Registrars of the High Court, Member Secretary, State Legal Services Authority, Law Secretary, Director Judicial Academy, advocates and staff of the High Court. Today we have assembled here to bid farewell to the Honorable Chief Justice on Her Lordship's elevation as Judge of the Supreme Court of India. My Lord is the first Lady Chief Justice of the state, having been appointed as Chief Justice of the state on 7/1/2021. My Lord was born on 2nd September 1959 in Delhi and did her schooling from St. Thomas School, New Delhi, and graduated in History Honours from St. Stephen's College, University of Delhi. She completed her post-graduation in History in First Division and thereafter joined the LLB course at the Law Faculty, Campus Law Center, University of Delhi. On completing the law course in the year 1984, she got enrolled as an advocate with the Bar Council of Delhi in the same year. My Lord had a lucrative practice at the bar. The Learned Advocate General has given a list of organizations for whom the Chief has appeared, so I don't want to repeat that. My Lord was sworn in as the Chief Justice of the High Court for the state, Telangana, on 7/1/21. Her immense talent and innate sensitivity made her deliver several decisions with a humanitarian approach to law, showing deep concern for the weak and the downtrodden. The Chief Justice played a fundamental role in championing the cause of public health during the COVID-19 crisis as a judge of the Delhi High Court. In June 2020, a division bench led by my Lord in Rakesh Malhotra versus NCT of Delhi allowed private hospitals equipped with labs and permitted by the ICMR to conduct COVID-19 tests in a bid to prevent Delhi from becoming the corona capital of the country. On March 28, 2020, a high-powered committee headed by my Lord relaxed the criteria for release of under-trial prisoners on interim bail from Delhi jails in view of the global COVID-19 pandemic and the Supreme Court's concern over overcrowding in jails. Apart from her contributions during the pandemic, the Chief Justice developed a strong jurisprudence in the area of matrimonial disputes through a feminist perspective. In Vishal Singh versus Priya, my Lord held that a wife's conduct of being interested in remaining in her room and not showing initiative in doing household work can by no stretch of imagination be described as cruel behavior towards the husband. In another case, a husband sought dissolution of marriage on the ground of cruelty, claiming that his wife was rude and cruel immediately after marriage and would pick quarrels with family and refuse physical relations with him. The bench of Justice Asha Menon and the Justice Hema Kohli found that none of these acts, if at all committed by the wife, would tantamount to cruel conduct. A new bride would be hesitant in her surroundings in the matrimonial home. The bench said, it is always for the husband's family to make the new bride feel at home and accepted as a family member. In fact, during her address at a webinar titled Domestic Violence During Lockdown, the Invisible Pandemic, conducted last year, the Chief Justice observed that there is no need for gender-neutral laws for domestic violence in India. He said, in our society, we haven't reached a point where men have needed protection from women. If there comes a time that women have an upper hand, then surely the legislature will amend laws to protect men. I am not saying there is no misuse. This cannot be a ground to trash the law. We can do as much as we can to nip the misuse at the bud. However, there is no denying that the power structure is in favor of the men. In R.O. Porwal versus the Mother International School, another landmark judgment in 2012 that reflected the Chief Justice's welfare-oriented approach to education, my Lord held that a child with 100% hearing disability fell under the ambit of disadvantaged category. When a school refused to admit a hearing-impaired child after misinterpreting orders passed by the Commissioner of Disabilities, my Lord directed the school to admit the child along with costs of 10,000 that would be adjusted in his school fee. My Lord criticized the school and observed, the approach of the school flies in the face of the very aim and object of the Right to Education Act 2009 and the Delhi School Education Order 2011, and its conduct amounts to frustrating the rightful aspirations of children like the petitioner herein, who is disabled, being 100% hearing impaired. After taking over as Chief Justice of the Telangana Court on January 7, 2021, my Lord utilized her expertise in handling COVID-19 related cases in this state as well. She could instill a sense of fear in minds of errant hospitals and enabled the state to rein in errant hospitals. The state finally agreed to adopt the Centre's Clinical Establishments Act for the purpose. My Lord's monitoring of the murder case of the lawyer couple and the lock-up death of the Dalit woman Mariamma has kept investigators on their toes. Her order that allowed probe agencies to continue their investigations in the big loan fraud cases had dealt a blow to the defaulters because the stay order they obtained in respect of the RBI circular on declaring their accounts as fraud was separated from the criminal investigation. She made life tough for bureaucrats convicted in contempt cases and made it clear to them they have to appear before the court when they file contempt appeals against convictions. She also introduced the practice of penance for bureaucrats and allowed them to avoid jail by doing social service under official supervision. Her efforts to protect and revive the glory of heritage structures such as Golconda Fort and Qutub Shahi tombs, and also the determination she displayed to help the state earn and retain UNESCO tag for Ramappa Temple have received applause from heritage lovers. The appellate authority over the Pollution Control Board came into being solely on account of Her Lordship's monitoring. The same is the case with the appointment of public prosecutors. An injured NSG commando and a widow of a slain IFS officer got state aid only because of her intervention. She also settled many matrimonial disputes by acting tough on erring parties, regardless of gender. In state of Andhra Pradesh versus Mrs. Gammon India, the Chief Justice held that a revision petition under Section 115 of CPC is not maintainable against an order passed under the Arbitration and Conciliation Act 1996, extending the timeline for completion of arbitration proceedings, since no appeal is provided against it in the Act. In Gautami Junior College for Girls, Nalgonda versus State of Telangana, the Chief Justice held that educational institutions have fiduciary responsibility to students when they remain within their precincts, and so fire safety regulations under the Fire Safety Act 1999 have to be followed by them. In A. Yashoda versus K. Rukmini, Chief Justice reiterated that a child born from an invalid or void marriage is entitled to get a share from the personal estate of his or her deceased father. In Lubna Tabassum and others versus State of Telangana, Chief Justice held that the principle of normalization of marks adopted by the state to determine relative merit of men and women for the post of stipendiary cadet training Reserve Sub-Inspector of Police, men and women, cannot be subjected to judicial review normally, but only in exceptional circumstances. In her short stint as Chief Justice of the High Court, My Lord has disposed of 1736 cases finally and 2523 miscellaneous cases. She disproved the myth that unless a woman has a successful lawyer, father, brother or husband, she cannot do well in practice and rise to high judicial office. She is the inspiration for many young lady lawyers to join law practice and earn great success in it. Her experience emphasizes that irrespective of the fact where one comes from and what one's background is, what ultimately counts is the attempt on the part of a woman to excel in the field and make a mark by displaying true grit and tenacity. She has demonstrated that to uphold the rule of law and the dignity of the court, sometimes tough decisions are required to be taken against the state. Her work on the administrative side is also remarkable. A high-level meeting was conducted with senior officials of the state government of Telangana in March 2021 by the Chief Justice, and most of the issues pending at the end of the state government have been resolved. The government has sanctioned 46 new courts, 2,170 additional posts of supporting staff for the subordinate judiciary, and 213 supernumerary posts in the High Court. Against 87 junior civil judge posts notified for the year 2020, the selection process is completed and 67 officers are provisionally selected, and a letter was addressed to the government for verification of antecedents and issuance of a government order for their appointment. Against 9 district judge posts notified for the year 2020, selection process is in progress. Viva voce is completed for 2 candidates and results are awaited. Groundbreaking ceremony for 10 court complex within residential quarters at Kukatpalli was held. Extended building of city criminal courts for CBI courts was inaugurated. 35 courts are inaugurated virtually or physically, including 2 commercial courts, fast-track special courts and a Senior Civil Judge Court, Junior Civil Judge Court, and additional Junior Civil Judge Courts. During COVID-19 pandemic, steps were taken for conducting RT-PCR and rapid antigen tests for employees in the High Court and District Court. Regular medical camp for COVID tests was established in the High Court premises. The WhatsApp group was created by name High Court COVID Fighters for the benefit of Corona positive staff members, giving access for them with doctors and other medical facilities. To contain COVID-19, mass vaccination program is taken up in the High Court in all the units in the state as well. As on date, more than 8,000 staff members and their immediate family members are vaccinated. For the outsourcing, contract and contingent employees, vaccination amount of 850 was reimbursed by spending more than ₹1 lakh. The High Court purchased 20 oxygen concentrators. The Chief laid foundation for law chambers for advocates, a creche and a medical dispensary in the High Court premises. The sanctioned strength of the Honorable Judges of the High Court got enhanced from 24 to 42. Names of 7 advocates and 6 district judges have been recommended for elevation as judges of the High Court. The state government was requested for sanction of 915 additional posts for the High Court in view of the enhancement of the strength of the High Court judges. Domestic help rules for the benefit of Chief Justice and other retired judges was submitted to the government for approval. For judicial officers in the state, 1.5 ton split air conditioners for home office and also cell phones were provided. A portal by name Daily Disposal Statistics is launched to monitor the daily disposals and also to reduce the undated cases in the districts. The wages of the housekeeping workers, full-time and part-time workers, helpers and plumbers was enhanced. Trust deed was executed for establishment of International Arbitration and Mediation Center in Hyderabad. Designation of 27 senior counsels was also done. The government had agreed to clear the bills of the judiciary in the green channel without any restrictions. Apart from performing their official duties as a judge, my Lord takes keen interest in promoting mediation as an alternative dispute resolution mechanism. In highlighting the role of judiciary in preservation of ecology and environment and the role of the family courts in resolving family disputes, she has participated in and presented at several national and international symposiums and conferences papers on these subjects. She has a keen interest in Western music and is an avid reader too. My Lord leaves behind a great legacy for being emulated by colleague judges, members of the bar and the district judiciary. I am sure that my Lord will distinguish herself equally well in the Supreme Court of India and earn plaudits from one and all. Thank you.
My esteemed colleagues, Justice Vibhu Bhakru from the High Court of Delhi, who is present in the gathering, Mr. A. Narasimha Reddy, Chairman Bar Council of Telangana, Mr. B. S. Prasad, Advocate General of the State of Telangana, Mr. T. Surekaran Reddy, Additional Solicitor General of India, Mr. Rajeshwar Rao, Assistant Solicitor General of India, government leaders, Mr. P. Ashok Kaur, President of the High Court Advocates Association in absentia, and office bearers, Mr. Pratap Reddy, Public Prosecutor, and his team of public prosecutors, senior advocates, members of the bar, Registrar General and Registrars of the High Court, Secretary Law, State of Telangana, Member Secretary, Telangana State Legal Services Authority, Director, Judicial Academy of Telangana, my sister Neelu, and Mr. B.B. Gupta, Senior Advocate, who will represent my family and friends, staff members, ladies and gentlemen, members of the electronic and print media. Before heading for Hyderabad, I had stated in my farewell speech at the Delhi High Court that my life can be compartmentalized into 3 phases. The first phase was dedicated to schooling, followed by graduation, post-graduation, and finally acquiring a degree of law. The second phase was that of a practicing lawyer, and the third commenced on being elevated as a judge of the Delhi High Court. I had concluded by stating that as the curtains were dropping on my third phase of life as a judge of the Delhi High Court, the call of duty beckoned me to the state of Telangana. Accompanied by my family and colleagues of the Delhi High Court, office bearers of the Bar Association of Delhi, High Court, Bar Council of Delhi, and several family friends who escorted us to Hyderabad, we landed here on 5th of January 21, and from then onwards started my fourth phase of life. I must share with you that about a month before my name was recommended as the Chief Justice of this state, a friend had posted some stunning photographs of the High Court of Telangana. The mesmerizing silhouettes of the regal domes sitting atop the building, shining against the radiant evening lights, had left a deep and indelible mark. It was nothing short of serendipity that I arrived in this court in the very next month. A court that has completed a century as an institution, that is rich in heritage, history, and is steeped in culture. A court that any Chief Justice would be proud to serve and preserve. It was indeed a delight to personally visit the court precincts for the first time in January 21 to witness its grandeur and majesty. My life has been an open book. I and my sister are born and brought up in Delhi. Ours was a nuclear family with just my parents and my sister and myself. I lost my father in early 90s when I was still in the throes of taking off in the legal profession. It was a privilege to have started my career and received training under the legal luminaries like Justice Nanda Bhandari, Justice Y.K. Sabharwal, and Justice Vijay Jain. All that I have learned of legal jurisprudence, law, and its defining contours has been under their active tutelage. My seniors generously imparted their knowledge, treated me as a part of the family, and supported me wholeheartedly. Becoming an independent legal practitioner in the mid-1980s, when there was very few women in the profession, even a high court in a metropolitan city like Delhi was no doubt a tough call. But as they say, success does not come without challenges. There were plenty of challenges that came my way in this long journey of 22 years as a lawyer and over 15 years as a judge. No doubt hard work, dedication, honesty, and sincerity are the key words in any profession. But divine blessings and blessings of the parents and the elders in the family are equally significant. I was fortunate to have met and befriended colleagues in the profession who readily lent a helping hand, whether it was on unraveling a complicated legal issue or an aspect relating to my career progression or even establishing my office. The highs and lows of life kept the adrenaline going with the constant and unstinting support of my parents and my sister. The demand of this profession are such that there is precious little time that one gets, and often one takes the family for granted. All the compromises are expected of them, and I must admit that they have been more than generous with me, with no complaints of being ignored or neglected at some critical junctures of life. It is often said that the legal profession is a jealous mistress, which brooks no rivals. Well, nor does it suffer fools easily. As a lawyer, I always thought that we have to be thoroughly prepared with a brief and address the court, while the role of a judge is limited to giving us a patient hearing and simply delivering the judgment. That's it. It is only when I crossed over to the bench did it dawn on me how daunting the task can be of hearing matters in a rote, day in and day out, from 10:30 in the morning to 4:30 in the evening. followed by correction of daily orders, dictations, and participating in several committee meetings on the administrative side. All this can be really taxing. As a matter of fact, the work of a judge starts after we rise from court and retire to the chambers. That's the time when we go through the reserved cases, the citations, and sift through all the material to try and arrive at a just decision. Most holidays are dedicated to dictating longish judgments. I would entreat the public not to count the holidays in a court calendar and assume that they are spent relaxing with the family or holidaying. On most of those days, you will find us on our tables day long working on judgments. This reminds me of the story of the seat of Vikramaditya. It is often said that when a judge discharges an onerous task of pronouncing a judgment in a difficult case, that he must have sat on the seat of Vikramaditya. The story goes like this. The reign of King Vikramaditya is treated as a landmark in the history of our country. It was after his name that the Hindu calendar Vikram Samvat was named. It is said that the king loved dispensing justice and was known to be fair to one and all in his kingdom. Upon his demise, his palace and fortress in Ujjain went into ruins. It was covered with tall grass and shrubs and trees. Shepherd boys from the nearby villages would accompany their cattle to the green pastures for grazing. Once, playing under the trees, one of the shepherd boys came across a mound that looked like a seat of a judge. In jest, he sat on it and called his friends to present their cases before him, as if he was a judge. It is said that the moment he sat on the seat and his friends presented their cases before him, the shepherd boy became serious and his demeanor changed completely. He was no longer a simple shepherd boy. The spirit of knowledge came upon him and he gave just verdicts. But when he would step down from the seat, he would act no different from any other child, playful and mischievous as ever. This story reached the ears of the reigning king and the area was excavated, and out came a slab of black marble supported on the hands and wings of 25 stone angels. This was supposed to be the seat of Vikramaditya. But when the king prepared himself to sit on that powerful seat, he was confronted with the stone angels, who asked him if he was fit, if he was pure in heart, like that child, to adorn the seat. He admitted that he was not. And lo and behold, the said angels flew with the seat into the sky and disappeared. I have narrated the story only to share with you how difficult the life of a judge can be. Wearing the mantle of a judge and deciding the complicated matter is not a mean task. There is always a bloody conflict in the mind about the right and the wrong of a case. This battle continues within, day in and day out. One eats, one breathes, one sleeps, carrying the case in the heart till the judgment is finally pronounced. Even while remaining physically present with the family, the mind is always sticky, weighing the pros and cons of a case one is engaged with. To sit on the seat of Vikramaditya is full of perils, but purity of thought and deed makes it rewarding. Coming back to the present, to start with, we hardly knew anyone in the city, either professionally or personally. The Sankranti vacations were dedicated to meeting all my colleagues by turns, to familiarize myself with them and the functioning of this court, its requirements and pending issues. They were kind enough to share their thoughts with me and give their valuable input, which gave me a fair idea of what would be expected from the Chief Justice of this esteemed court. In a short time, the second wave of the COVID-19 pandemic set in and made things really tough for all of us. whether as litigants or as members of the bar, as advocate clerks, as court officials, as court staff, as judges, and as our family members. It is sad that many have succumbed to the infection in the past few months. We are poorer by their absence. In my short stint as the Chief Justice of this court, we have recently bid farewell to an esteemed colleague, Justice Gordon Rao, and have, with a heavy heart, parted with late Justice Keshav Rao. When the clouds were at the darkest, it is said that the silver lining is not far away. The good part of this period was when the 7 names that have been recently recommended by the Supreme Court for appointment as judges of this High Court are awaited to join the bench. The bar is richer with 27 more designated senior advocates. Names of 7 advocates and 6 district judges have been recently recommended for being appointed as judges of this court. Once the strength of the court will increase, the burden will also increase proportionately, and this will help in the speedy dispensation of justice and reduction of filing arrears. I would be failing in my duty if I did not acknowledge the unstinting support of my colleagues through this brief but eventful journey in this court. Brother Justice Ramchandra Rao and Justice Rajshekhar Reddy have been only a call away for any assistance I have required in the administration of justice. Justice Naveen Rao has played an active role in several committees and helped me in moving things faster. I thank Justice Shamim Akhtar, Justice Abhinand Kumar Shavli, Justice Amarnath Kaur, Justice Sridevi, Justice Vinod Kumar, and Justice Lakshman for helping me in the smooth discharge of my duty. Justice Abhishek Reddy and Justice Vijay Sen Reddy have been my bench partners and have contributed in speedy and efficient disposal of long pending cases. Between us, we have disposed of 1,731 cases. Out of these, just about 3 short of 200 cases were the long pending family court appeals that have satisfactorily been closed on compromise. The registry, led by Mr. Venkateshwar Reddy, Registrar General, and ably supported by Srimati Sujana, Registrar Administration, Srimati K. Sai Rama, Registrar Vigilance, Dr. Nagarjun, Registrar Judicial, Mr. D. Ramakant, Registrar IT, Mr. T. Venkateshwar Rao, Registrar Protocol, Mr. V. Ramesh, Registrar Management, Mr. K. Gangadhar Rao, Registrar Judicial 2, Mr. P. Sridhar Rao, Registrar OSD, have ensured that no file remains pending on my table for more than a day. Mr. Sarfaraz, Principal Secretary, Mr. Nagesh Babu, Principal Private Secretary, Mr. Narsimha Rao, Private Secretary, Mr. Shastri, Personal Secretary, and Srimati Sarita, Court Master, have gone beyond the call of their duty to assist me at work and make me and my family members comfortable in Hyderabad. On many occasions, they have worked along with me till late hours at night without a complaint. I also thank Chandrasekhar, data entry operator, for the smooth functioning of the virtual court hearings. My law researchers, Utkarsh, Tejasvi, and Isas Puri, and in turn, Bhaglekar Akash, have ably assisted me with case law and preparation of brief notes of daily cases. I thank them for all their wholehearted support. I thank my court officers, Mr. Narsi Babu, Srimati Lavanya, Mr. Chinnaya, and court masters, Mr. Radhakrishna Murthy, Srimati Usha Rani, Srimati Deepa, Srimati Supraja, Srimati Tulsi Lakshmi, and Satish for their able assistance. My thanks goes out to Mr. A. Santosh Reddy, Secretary Law, Srimati Anupma Chakravarti, Member Secretary, Telangana State Legal Services Authority, Srimati Tirumala Devi, Director, Telangana State Judicial Academy, and their team of officers and staff for discharging their duties with commitment. I thank the Protocol Department, the Medical Department, the Judges Special Department for their constant support and services. I express my thanks to the security personnel of various ranks detailed for my safety and security, and to Mr. Sanjeeva Rao, pilot officers and escorts of the official cars, including the security guards at my residence. I also express my gratitude to the police department who have worked round the clock to provide a security cover. I would be failing in my duty if I did not acknowledge the services rendered by my PSOs, Mr. Prabhakar Rao, Mr. Sanjay, the drivers, Ratnakar, Govardhan, Sunil Kumar, the chamber attendants, Lakshman, Shankar Rao, Balaya, office subordinates, Venkateshwar, Tapilal, and Shankar Singh, record assistant. The court attendants, Jahangir, record assistant, Mahmood, and office subordinate. I thank my domestic staff, Mr. Durga, Vijay, Shiva, Madhusudan, Jan, Manjula, Gufran Ali, Tamassu, Vijay Lakshmi, and Sushil Kumar. I also thank my personal home staff, Philippe and Shankar, who have accompanied us from Delhi and have remained here throughout. On the date of entry into a judicial system, we are aware of the date of our exit too. I was ready with my bags packed for bidding farewell on 1st of September, but for the recent fortuitous developments that have opened the doors of the Supreme Court for me. I am thankful to Honorable the Chief Justice of India, Justice Ramana, and members of the Collegium of the Supreme Court for giving me an opportunity to serve in the highest court of the land. I am grateful to the Divine for affording me such an opportunity. Soon I will enter the 5th phase of my life, but this does not mean that I am saying goodbye to you. This is only to say until we meet again. My family and I shall cherish the fond memories of the state, in particular the city of Hyderabad, its people, the food, and the rich culture. The state has attained modernity, and yet it is steeped in wonderful traditions. We have been fortunate to meet warm, generous, and affectionate persons during our short stay in this beautiful city. We are going back to Delhi, richer with these associations. Hopefully, we have been able to forge lifelong bonds that will overcome distance and time. I hope that I could contribute my little mite in making this court a better institution. It is my request that we keep the crosswinds of democratic traditions, of free thinking and free exchange of ideas flowing, and blow away the cobwebs of casteism, of regionalism and provincialism. Our oath is to the Constitution of India, and our religion is the rule of law. May I conclude by stating that just as I had invited members of the Delhi High Court Bar Association to visit Hyderabad on moving here, permit me to extend a similar invitation to you all to take out some time and visit me whenever you happen to come to Delhi.